Hey, what's up everybody, this is Rick51 and today I'm going to bring you guys a new build, and as you can see by the beginning of the video, this build can hit over 4 million DPS at the target range. Now that is at the target range, so it's a bit more controlled of an environment, and this build is a little bit harder to use because of the main weapon you're using. So that brings us to our weapons. Now the main weapon is going to be an SVD. Now specifically the Commando SVD here is being sold by Cassie Mendoza for like 6,000 E-credits or something. So go pick some up from her. I think I bought like 5 of these and I have multiple rolled for multiple different builds. And the reason for an SVD is because it's one of the highest DPS guns in the game, because it basically is a rifle. It has like the same RPM as rifles, it has higher damage, and then it has the marksman rifle headshot damage because it rolls as a marksman rifle, which gives it 138% headshot damage, making it just be able to put out some ridiculous DPS. Now, I rolled Ranger onto it. That's what I'd recommend for this build. It's probably the best main talent you're going to be able to get for this build. And you can get some insane damage from that out in normal combat, you know, being super far from the enemies you're hitting. Now this rolls with accurate, which is pretty good. I don't think you need the fire rate on it. So accurate's probably the best, just because this gun is so wild. That's its downfall. It's so wild that with the accuracy, it's very helpful to get as much accuracy, as much stability as you possibly can. The third roll isn't really that important at all for damage. Now for the mods, in the video with where I did the 4 million DPS at the start of the video, I used a digital scope, which is a reward from one of the talents of the sniper specialization tree. This gives 45% headshot damage and -5 critical damage, so it does reduce the damage a bit, but overall it's going to give you the highest damage possible. If you want to use this in combat, you can. I do use it in combat some, especially if you're a longer range, you can use this. If you want to use something closer range, you can use these small accuracy sights, but I would recommend using like a 4x sight or something like that that's still considered a scope, because this, say this 4 times right here, you don't have to actually aim in with the scope, so it's still just, you know, like you're using no sight at all basically, besides the perks on it. But the reason you're going to want to use something that's still considered a scope is because of Nemesis, or secondary weapon. And that's because of its holstered talent, which gives you 25% headshot damage when you're scoped with the weapon you're using. And 4x scopes, even though they don't zoom you in with a normal scope that you'd have to actually look through, it still considers it a scope for that 25% increased headshot damage. So I would definitely recommend getting something like this. I don't have a very good one. Optimal range isn't the best for this, but it's still okay. I'll have to do testing. You can also do testing at the target range. It's pretty easy with all the different other scopes. I actually don't have a lot, but yeah, definitely make sure it's a scope and you're getting that 25% headshot damage. And as we just talked about, we have a Nemesis as the secondary for that 25% headshot damage as a holstered talent. This sniper is still pretty good. If you want to use it some in combat, you can as well, because it is really good by itself. Then your secondary slot really doesn't matter. If you want some specific holster talent, you can use that. I just like these double barrel shotguns because if people get close and you need to shoot off a few shotgun shots, it does insane damage. Now the reason I really want to do this build is it's pure DPS, so it is glass cannon. It doesn't have a ton of armor or health, but this build is pretty much requiring no specific talents, no abilities, no sort of anything really. Pretty much you can just get this weapon, try to get the Nemesis. It's not super hard to get really. You know, it's kind of time gated. All your gear pieces and stuff, you can pretty much just, you know, keep getting more damage as you tack more stuff on, because it doesn't require any talent. Like the On the Ropes build requires, you know, 2 or 3 talents that you need a certain amount of different colors to activate. This requires none of that. No abilities. You can use whatever you want for your abilities, and I was still hitting that insane DPS. The reason I also want to do that is because with all the talent changes and stuff like that coming up, not worrying about or needing any talents is going to be super nice to at least have a really good build to farm stuff, because if you guys haven't seen, a lot of the talents are being changed pretty dramatically. So now for just our gear pieces. Now the headpiece, I have rolled ridiculously high damage to elites. it is a wyvern where if you can get any other better rolled one, like, you know, if you want to go critical with chance, critical with damage, anything like that, you can. I do like the damage to elites, and this is a really insanely high roll damage to elites. Most of the time, if you need a build with this high DPS, you're facing elites, so you're going to be getting that damage increase anyway. Then a hard hitting roll for more damage to elites. You know, the damage to elite percent damage increase is always really good. Once you're in World Tier 5, doing any challenging, any heroic, even, you know, dark zone stuff, you're always killing elites. So this is always going to be damage increases. Then we just have the skill power roll. Not the best roll, and this was a 450 roll it higher. So it would be nice to get a 500 that I could then roll this damage to elites on. But for now, it is a pretty decent roll. Getting, you know, just ridiculous damage to elites from one piece is pretty nice. Now my backpack is not a very well rolled piece either. It's probably one of my weakest pieces, actually, but it is Wyvern Rare, so I get that 3-set bonus. Wyvern Rare is really good because this is a full red build. So the critical damage, 7%, just pretty big increase. Then critical chance by 10% is a pretty massive increase as well. So I definitely recommend trying to get 3-set Wyvern Wear if you're able to. My sets, besides the 3-piece Wyvern Wear, aren't that good. Now I have a low weapon damage roll on this. I could go much higher, and a critical damage, which I had modified to 5. This is a really not well rolled piece. Its saving grace is that it's a Wyvern Wear, and it does it to 50% damage to elites. And then I do have Marksman Rifle critical damage as one of my mods because I didn't have a better mod than this. It's an okay mod, but I could definitely do better on that mod as well. You know, this talent right here isn't even active because it just got so bad rolled. I have a backpack, and I really want to get that Wyvern Wear. The other piece I had, it was just better to get the 10% critical chance from the third Wyvern Wear piece. So this isn't really well rolled at all, but if you can get good weapon damage, you know, critical chance, critical damage, all that type of stuff, then hard hitting. If you can get to, you know, normal just stat roll increases, basically, that'd be good. You know, pretty much anything you want. Mainly for this, I would say if you want Wyvern Wear, get a Wyvern Wear. You don't exactly need it, but, you know, just get the best red rolls you possibly can with hard hitting, and you're probably going to be good for your backpack. Now, for the chest piece, this one is okay rolled, except for the talent and that it's the brand set is the SMG damage. I would definitely like a different brand set on this. The red rolls are decent, and then a different talent. It does have an offensive slot, so I got the 5% marksman rifle damage increase, which is pretty good. I can increase that as well. I think go up to 6, and then a secondary roll is the highest you can go. But the reds are pretty good. 4.5% critical damage. My critical damage is pretty low. That is one of the big reasons that I think I couldn't get much higher damage, is because my critical damage is pretty low in this build right now. Critical chance plus another 10%. Pretty good roll right there. Headshot damage plus 6. Really good. You know, it is more of a headshot based damage build, and then 6% weapon damage. So it is a pretty decent roll for all the attributes in the mod. You know, the talent of the brand set could definitely use a little bit of change up, but overall it's a pretty good rolled piece. Now my gloves aren't that well rolled either because I don't have a good brand set on them, and I didn't get 1 red roll, I got 2, but this is the only one I had that was like anything decent because it's an 8% marksman rifle damage roll on it. I actually don't have this one rolled yet because I just pretty much found this one and I had no other better gloves. But what I would roll is I would roll this 20% explosive damage into more elite damage increase, so another 15% damage to elites. That is a pretty big damage increase. I just got this, so that will be what I'm rolling into. This has no mods or anything. I wish I could definitely get something better. I've been so unlucky with gloves, probably more than backpacks. I've been unlucky with gloves specifically for this build. This is like the only thing I've gotten with marksman rifle damage. So, you know, definitely if you can get, I think you can get up to 12 or 13% for one red roll. That's actually pretty hard to say. So you're going to want that for the marksman rifle damage increase, you know, that 12 or 13% if you can get it. And then the talent, you're going to want the 15% damage to elites. I'm pretty sure gloves are what you can get the headshot damage with, so that's also pretty much just as good. I think they're interchangeable, but I think the damage to elites is a little bit more forgiving than the headshot damage increase, even though you kind of have to hit headshots for this build anyway. And then whatever, you know, brand set you're able to get that's better. I always have bad luck with the brand sets, and I never go for the optimization of that. I usually try to go for all the attributes and talents first. Now for this right here, for the holster, I also have another bad brand set. Really has a protection, not really that useful, but I do have 14.5 2.5 critical hit chance for a massive critical hit chance. I think, at the soft cap. Then I roll the hard hitting onto it, so 15% more damage to elites. Really good. Pretty much the only thing of this piece. I don't know if you can get 50% critical hit chance, but the only thing I would change is the brand set. I do have an offensive roll for another 5% marksman rifle damage increase, so this is a really well rolled piece. I would definitely like to get a new brand set though, but anything like that, critical chance, you can get really high critical damage single rolls on this as well if you think you have enough critical chance. But yeah, pretty much that's what you want to be going for those. Then we have the knee pads, and this is my third wyvern wear piece. So this is probably a perfect roll, at least for a 450. If I get this at a 500, then roll the critical chance up. That would be a bit better. The critical chance wouldn't go up, but I'd have more armor. So it's pretty much, besides that, it's pretty much a perfectly rolled piece because I have the wyvern wear, so I get the reset for the critical chance to 10%. This is the third piece. I have the 7% critical hit chance as the roll. If you have a good amount of critical chance, you can roll this into damage if you want, but I think that the critical chance is working better for me right now. Then hard hitting, another 15% damage to elites. I think you can also get the headshot damage on this, so that will be a good roll as well. I do prefer the damage to elites most of the time. And then I have another offensive roll. I just did the best one I had. I really am super unlucky most of the time with mods. So I have the 1.5% weapon damage and the 2% headshot damage. So pretty much like 3.5% damage increase because it is more of a headshot build. The optimal range, not really anything too important. I could definitely work on getting a better mod for this slot. That one is definitely slacking, but overall this is probably my best rolled piece. I would say one of the best rolled pieces, and that's pretty much the entire build. Now the specialization I am using is the sniper, and I'll go over that in a second. Now the abilities, you can legitimately use anything you want. I still just have balls on. I'll probably change it to like flame turret or something. You can literally use any abilities you want. I would definitely always recommend the healing chem launcher. It's pretty much just like one of the best abilities in the game, but for your other ability, you can use literally whatever you want. You can use hives, you can use your revive hive if you want that. You can use flame turrets if you're doing challenging missions and where enemies come out of. You can use everything. You're not going to get pretty much any mods unless you go get like green or blue mods from lower levels, but you're not going to get any of their mods because there's like no skill power in this build. And the specialization, we are using the sharpshooter specialization, and there's a few reasons for that. 25% headshot damage, that's pretty much enough of a reason because it is ridiculous damage. If you want to be using the digital scope like I used at the target range, that is where you get it right here for that 45% headshot damage. You also have reload speed, which is always really good. It is a clip reload, so it's not, you don't have to load in rounds at a time. So reload speed is always very helpful. Then the 30% increased stability, even though there's 25% headshot damage, this is probably one of the most important things. Because 30% increased stability, this weapon is one of the most wild weapons for stability and accuracy. So that 30% is a massive buff to this weapon. It's just really, really good, the talents you get from this specialization for this build. I don't think either of these other builds are going to give you anything that's even close to what you get with this build. So use the sharpshooter build. If you don't have a lot of specialization points in it, get these three talents: the one in the head, the deft hands, and the breath control. If you want the digital scope, go grab that next after. And that is pretty much the entire build. It is just a massive marksman rifle DPS build. This thing, especially if you get higher accuracy and stability, which mine's still a decently low, you can get some more for that. For going into that, you can get 15% stability if you want with that. Just getting accuracy and stability is going to make this thing feel much more like a rifle with a bit more kick. But, overall, it's going to do ridiculous damage. So that's the entire build. Subscribe if you're going to see more Division 2 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about Division 2 as a whole. What you think about this build. Let me know if you guys are doing this build and how high DPS you can get at the target range. And thanks for watching.